We now have the founder CEO for Vida, and I think the discussion we had earlier around voice AI was very insightful. I loved your contributions. So I'm looking forward to hearing you explain how you got to where you are and how you're making voice AI a success.
Yeah, sure. I've been building tech in the telecom world for, I don't know, I guess going on 20 years
Yeah,
now. My last startup was one of the first fully online, business WebRTC phone systems.
yeah,
As a part of building that out, we ended up building a lot of internal capacity to essentially replicate Twilio's API because we originally built our product on top of Twilio's
yeah.
API. Um, Ultimately, our company and our technology was acquired by Inteliquent. Many of you probably know their name. They were, or I guess they still are, one of the largest wholesale telecom operators in the world.
Yeah.
Worked with them for about 5 years, ran product, built out their API team, sort of brought them into the API world. And then Sinch acquired them into 2021, 2022, early 2022. And that's when I left to start Vida.
Mhm.
Um, what was going through my head at the time was, wow, these LLMs had just, come out. I'd been, watching them closely. I'd been doing quite a bit of sort of, I guess I'll say older school machine learning projects inside of Inteliquent, doing things like spotting spam,
Yeah.
spotting fraud, spotting anomalies inside of the network, things like that. We actually also had a very early version of a voice AI that we called Emma
All right.
internally. But we didn't really have the LLM piece of the puzzle to make it magic.
Mhm.
But long story short, I guess I sort of saw the writing on the wall in that a lot of the technology that we had built, systems to make building IVRs easier, systems to make building older school chatbot, systems, decision tree based chatbot
Yeah.
systems and things like that. That all that stuff was going to need to
Yeah.
change a lot or
Yes.
completely get replaced now that we have these magical things that we call AI that are really large language models. And yeah, that brings us to Vida. So, I mean, the big thesis is that, hey, most of business communications is going to be powered eventually by these AI agents in one form or another.
Yep.
Every UCaaS vendor is going to have these things as a part of their business
Yeah.
communications offerings in the future. What a developer voice API looks like is going to completely change. Why spend the time rendering out XML to create an IVR when you can, plug it into an LLM and do all
Yeah.
of the same things, and more. Uh,
Exactly.
so with Vida, we feel like we're taking the harder path. We're not just providing a developer API solution. We're making a full blown business application that businesses of all size can use. Whether you're Joe Plumber, you look at your phone at the end of the day, you've got 20 missed calls, maybe 15 of them are spam, but you don't know which ones, right? You have no
Yeah.
idea, which ones of those calls were good leads worth following up with, or what. So, our AI agents make that extremely clear.
Yeah.
Um, but also, we're focused very heavily on resellers and managed service providers and value-added resellers, and being able to provide these voice agents in a way that they can consume and roll out to their existing business communications
Exactly.
customers.
Yeah.
So I guess I'll pause there. Um, One of the things I wanted to demo was some of our new reseller capabilities. So
Oh, cool.
maybe
Yeah.
I'll share my screen now, and you can, ask me some questions. I'll walk through a few things, and we'll kind of play it by ear. Sound okay?
Absolutely. Yep. That'll be perfect.
Yeah, 1 second here. So if you have a reseller account with Vida, you get this nifty dashboard that lets you spin up organization accounts, or these would be customers of yours. You can pop into them, you can view their details, you can manage their billing, you can, help them invite admin users or whatever you might need
Yep.
to do. You can view the usage, that's rolled up under this particular account, um, under this particular organization. But on the left, you can also see the usage across your entire reseller account. So,
Mhm.
what are all of your customers consuming, on a day-to-day basis or an hourly basis? We roll all of that usage up to the reseller plan, so the reseller has total vision into what's happening across his or her network of agents.
Yep.
You can invite other members to help manage your reseller organization. We've got support for white labeled domains, as well as, if your agent sends out an email notification, you want that to come from your email domain and, not a Vida email domain. So the little details and white label features, are built into this as
Yep.
well.
Perfect.
And then, you can also manage what are you actually selling. So, this particular reseller account is a $100 a month plan, a $30 a month plan, and a $500 a month plan. But, these can all be configured with any sort of rules that you might want. Maybe
Yep.
you want to charge for each agent that an organization spins up. Maybe you don't want to charge for phone numbers.
Mhm.
Maybe you want to set a custom price per minute, but not charge for messages. Pretty much any billing event, you have control over building a plan out
Yep.
that meets your particular customer needs. So I'll pop into one of these agents just so you can see. So here's a particular example. You can see we provide an inbox, also a junk inbox. You can see all of the conversations that your agent has been having with
Yep.
people that calls your number and it talks to. We provide full call transcripts as well as recordings for every call so that you know exactly what your agent is talking about, while it's talking to someone on the phone. Also, we provide the ability to turn the agent on or off in particular conversations. So, imagine you're a small business owner, you have a particular client that next time he calls back, you don't want it to hit your agent, you want it to go straight to your cell phone.
Gotcha.
It's just a click away here to turn the agent off. Keep in mind, I don't have SMS enabled in this account, but we do support SMS in and out of these agents as well. So it's not just voice.
Understood.
So I'll pop into editing an agent. Now, this should be something that more and more people are getting familiar with, but this is kind of like a prompt that you would give ChatGPT, right?
Yep.
Explain to the agent who it is, what it's doing, what information it should collect, what its primary goal is, and then pretty much any other instructions you want to give it.
Yep.
And then our platform also exposes a variety of different functions that the agent can execute while it's in a conversation or on a phone call. So, for example, there's a take a message
Yep.
function that the agent can choose to execute. There's a call transfer function that the agent can choose to execute. You can put in complex instructions like this, like if someone wants to talk to sales, send the call to, we'll just make up a number, 1512, 51234. And we also support, dialing extensions, after the call is transferred. So your agent can pretty much transfer a call just like a person, in your office would need
Yep.
to transfer a call. And you can have, as many sets of detailed instructions in the call transfer action that you might want.
Mhm.
We have a lot of other functions as well. When should the agent notify you? Send you an email with the full call transcript, any action items, any
Gotcha.
information collected from the caller, like their contact information. When should the agent, send you a notification? The agents can also send emails. So imagine you want to, send somebody a meeting booking link or send somebody some sort of, information packet or whatever. These
Yep.
things look like they're coming from your business, not ours, and the agent
Mhm.
can send an email anywhere.
Gotcha.
Same thing with an SMS, if we had that enabled in this
Yeah.
account. But the agent can also execute webhooks. So, imagine you have a back office system. You want your agent to be able to, let's say, check store hours or check inventory. That's a pretty common one.
Yeah.
The agent can run pretty much any HTTP command, whether that's a post or a get or a put or anything you might want it to do. And then scheduling. We integrate into a variety of different scheduling systems, including just Google Calendar. The agent's able to look up to see what your availability is, when you have availability, and place events on your calendar, just like a normal person answering the phone would
Yeah.
do. So pretty straightforward, but basically, your agent can do real things. And along with the webhook action and some of the other integrations that we offer, which I'll go to.
Yeah.
For example, we integrate with Zapier. So there's 7,000 applications that your agent can interface with directly, via Zapier, which is pretty cool. We're actually doing a pilot with Zapier right now for some new capabilities that they're going to be rolling out that would enable companies like ours to more easily expose and spin up integrations without the user necessarily needing to know anything about Zapier. So we're excited about that. That'll be coming here next quarter.
Yeah.
But maybe you're a hardcore power user, or maybe you're a bigger business that has an IT shop.
Yeah.
We offer a full developer API that would enable you to build anything you see in our application. Our application uses our own API. So this entire interface you could rebuild on top of our API. You can completely control what your agent's doing. You can get events when calls complete, or when schedule actions complete, or when new contacts are added or updated behind the scenes by your agent. And then lastly, on this page, we have full native support for SIP. So, your agents can be dialed directly over SIP. If you need to, interconnect your corporate networks with ours, it's very simple. Add your IP, and then you got your agent's address down here. So going back to the agent editor, you can also give your agent access to information on the web. So maybe you have a frequently asked questions page on your homepage, or maybe you have a PDF that you might give a new employee about how to answer phone calls. Or you could just upload that right here so that the agent has the context. And then a few obvious things, how do you want it to answer the phone? What voice would you like your agent to use? We have quite a few. What's the primary language your agent should begin speaking, although they are multilingual.
Yeah.
Then some other things, specifically for like the smaller business guys. So we have a mobile app for iOS and Android. And you can imagine if you're, a contractor or a tree trimmer or a salon owner, you've probably been using your cell phone as your primary business number for years now, right? You don't necessarily want to change that or port it to us. So if you install our mobile app, you can forward your cell phone number directly to your agent, and any contacts in your contact address book on your mobile phone will still go straight to you and skip your agent, essentially. But this has been a pretty key feature for a lot of small business owners that already have their mobile number out in the wild, but they still need to, have an AI agent answer their phone.
Gotcha. Then on the scheduling, sorry for interrupting. Especially say the tree service, and generally they operate in, it's like no matter where they are, it's roughly half an hour to get to another address. So when the scheduling, can they include Slack time as well? If the so that is that rules that you can set?
So it's pretty flexible. We've made it just about as flexible as you can imagine. But behind the scenes, your agent has access to 3 functions whenever you enable this.
Okay.
So it has a function to look up availability on a particular calendar. It has the ability to schedule an appointment on a particular calendar, and has lots of fields it can fill out, like the title of the meeting and the title of the event. The duration is flexible. The agent can choose.
Okay.
Also, a function to cancel, calendar events.
Yeah.
And then any other instructions that you want to, act as guidelines or guardrails for your agent, such as, make sure you never schedule an appointment within 2 hours of the current time.
Gotcha.
Make sure to only let somebody ever schedule one calendar event at a time. If they need to change it, cancel it first and make a new one.
Exactly.
So pretty much anything, you would want to describe, you can put it right here, as essentially additional prompt instructions. And the way things behind the scenes is when it's trying to use this function, we put this prompt, as a high priority, set of instructions that it needs to remember.
Gotcha. Yeah, I remember in some of the first systems that I was playing with, it was you could basically just schedule back-to-back meetings. So you could really make life difficult But again, adding in those rules just creates that buffer. So you include travel time, typical meet, because especially with a small business operating in a particular town or region, that direct in-person contact is what drives the sale. Being on the
Absolutely.
customer's property, basically seeing what's required, explaining what you would do, and giving a quote there and then. And even if it's quite complex, just popping to the truck, writing it out, and then handing it basically within a few minutes. And and talk to small businesses in around where I live. It's like doubles the sales, the sales success because
Absolutely. I
they
mean,
know the person.
we see this over and over again. The scheduling component is probably, the most used, the most requested component.
Yeah,
It impacts, pretty much any business, you could think of, especially smaller businesses,
yeah,
especially mobile businesses,
yeah,
anything touching contractors or home services,
yeah,
salon owners, all of those things, the business owner's day to day revolves around their calendar and their
yeah.
schedule. And so
Exactly.
we've been through a lot of changes in how our agents can do things.
Cool.
But ultimately, the agent can essentially decide any of the variables you might, imagine, needing and having exposed whenever is scheduling an event and putting it on the calendar.
Gotcha.
So, just as another thing on top of that, we have docs for each one of our functions that goes into all of the details.
Gotcha.
We also provide full API REST documentation, for all of our API endpoints. And, we have a few resellers that are doing direct integrations with their API. They're not even using, our white labeled UI. And the reason
Oh,
why they're able to do that is because everything you see that we've built here is available in our REST API as well.
gotcha.
And
And their
ultimately,
driver for building on top is maybe they've got like a web platform they want this to integrate through. I mean, what's the
yeah,
drive?
or maybe, you could imagine one of the resellers, they operate a NetSapiens based business, right? So
Okay.
NetSapiens is huge with
Yeah.
managed service providers and VARs and things like that.
Gotcha.
These guys have their own UI, built on top of that PBX platform. So
Yeah.
this lets them integrate it directly into the portal, that their customers are already familiar with.
Gotcha.
And, we started out this conversation. I think I said, I expect every, UCaaS vendor, to have AI agents like this integrated. And, these are the types of user experience challenges that we're trying to, solve and work through first.
Yes.
Because, those are all things you have to figure out the hard way by putting it in front of customers
Yes.
and putting it in front of resellers, and iteratively solving their problems.
Cool. No, that's clear.
I guess a couple of other things, you can test your agent right here in the browser, either by chatting, or kicking off a WebRTC based call right here. So, it's pretty easy to make changes and test them before you actually publish them on your live number. But beyond that, it's pretty much everything you need to begin offering these AI agent services to your existing communications customers.
Yeah.
So far, most of our resellers have either been, existing people offering some sort of business communication product, like the NetSapiens guys that I mentioned.
Hmm.
Perhaps they are, marketing companies that also do things like build websites, for small businesses, and they want to bundle something like this as a
Yeah.
part of their service.
Understood.
We also have quite a few people that do business in like the lead generation space,
Hmm.
things like that. Automating sales intake forms, automating sales qualifications,
Yeah.
before they hand off a lead. So the sky's the limit when you have access to intelligence
Yeah.
at a
Exactly.
it's quickly approaching zero, and having these things be able to talk on the phone is, clearly going to be a big part of the communication space going forward. So we're doing everything we can to make it as accessible as possible.
Now, how have you found hallucinations? Still a problem? It's been on the decline.
Yeah, it's getting better. The thing about hallucinations is they're much more likely to happen when you don't give it any direction on a
Yes.
particular topic,
Yeah.
or question, right?
Yeah.
So it's all about giving your agent all of the context that you possibly can about your business and what it's supposed to do on the phone.
Yeah, all the cliff edges you basically sort of point out and put rails around. But of course, the real world always finds new cliffs to jump
Sure,
off.
sure. Absolutely. So, one thing to do is you always give it options to take
Yes.
instead of hallucinating. So one
Yeah.
example would be transferring the call, to a person.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
if you're getting asked about a topic that isn't discussed in your instructions or context, transfer the call.
Exactly. And make the
That cuts off.
prompt really clear. So
Yeah.
it's the default almost.
Absolutely. So that eliminates the vast majority of problems. Other things you can do is just give it more context and information. One of the things we're going to be rolling out in the next few weeks is a much more powerful, essentially a web scraper. So right now, when you put one of those links in, we take the context from that particular page that you're looking at. But very soon you'll be able to put in your website address, and we will crawl the entire thing,
Cool.
and vectorize it and make it available to your agent.
Excellent.
So it's the same type of thing. When it gets asked a question that it isn't provided direct context or information about, give it a function to query,
Yeah.
a larger data set. And if it still doesn't get, a good answer based on its vector query, well, then transfer the call. So,
Yeah.
this is it's going to continue to be an evolution.
Exactly.
Real
Yeah.
employees hallucinate as well. We don't call it hallucinate, but that's kind of what they're doing.
Yeah.
When you ask me, something, I don't actually know the answer, but I'm an employee on the phone, and my brain is saying I gotta say something.
Yeah.
People often output incorrect things. And these AI agents are no different
Yeah.
in that regard. But I would say the vast majority of time, they're more accurate. They have better
Yeah.
information retrieval capabilities today than other alternatives.
Yep. Gotcha. And then we were discussing, some of the sort of customer groups that you currently serve. So, I mean, mobile businesses, tree care, garden care, and that. Those that have a mobile element. But do you find, some of the small businesses that are operating out of a fixed location? Just interested to get that fixed versus mobile division.
Yeah, for sure. Salon owners is a good one.
Yeah.
But we have customers spanning all sorts of things.
Hmm.
Online stores.
Ah,
I
yeah.
mean, honestly, like you could just go down the list
Gotcha.
because pretty much everybody has a phone line. That people are calling.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised. How many people are still stuck with legacy systems that are already 15 years old.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And when you show them that these things can communicate like a real person, execute functions, like a real person,
Yeah.
integrate with their ticketing system, integrate with their inventory system. We have
Yeah.
online stores. The inventory integration is mind blowing for them.
Yes.
Because
Exactly.
previously that was a 7-figure contract with a ton of integration work that had to be performed by a team of engineers,
Yes.
before something like that could even be done.
Yeah.
But now it's possible with a few clicks. So
Exactly. Exactly. No, to be able to see what you have in stock, I think is great. And also, if you're able to, like, that's the first order. No, we don't have it in our store. Okay, well, here's our vendor. You could query the vendor to see whether they have in stock. So
sure.
you can say, yes, we can, but it'll take X number of days. So again, giving people deadlines, giving people dates so that, you can close the deal because they go, oh yeah,
Absolutely.
that's in next week, so that's fine. So that's interesting. So
Absolutely.
I mean, I guess the sky's the limit in terms of the integrations, but what are some of the steps that you're focusing on through 2025 in terms of development?
Yeah. Probably the biggest upcoming set of tools that we'll be releasing is we have a whole host of new outbound capabilities that will also be revolve around some new contact capabilities. So you
Okay.
can imagine that, imagine if your phone system can automatically, improve CRM entries, for customers, whether that's notes about the call, whether that's information about somebody calling your business line.
Okay.
Any information the agent collects can be added to a contact and synced behind the scenes with your CRM. But also,
Gotcha.
once you have syncing, with your CRM and sort of a full contacts capability built into the platform, you can do other things. You can say, all right, anytime a CRM gets updated with this tag, maybe they're like at X stage in the pipeline. I
Yeah.
want to trigger an outbound call, to them 1 month later to
Yeah.
follow up.
Yeah. Exactly.
Or anytime somebody schedules a calendar event through the agent, make sure that you queue up an SMS reminder to them, before their calendar. So
Yeah.
the agent will be able to, sort of automatically behind the scenes queue up things for itself to do over the phone.
Yeah.
And then users will be able to go in and manually create actions and triggers and things like that, to get the agent to do whatever they need it to do based on whatever parameters that they want.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
yeah, so we think most of our users are solely using this for inbound. We do have outbound capabilities via our API today. Not much
Yeah.
of it exposed in our UI, but that will be a big thing coming down the pipes in early 2025.
Cool. Excellent. No, again, you can see very handy additions, as well as on the CRM side, adding that information around the contact. So you can, and that can be very powerful because I mean, there are some, good contractors that they just recognize your number and they can, like 5 years ago, we had a problem with a cesspit that had been covered up back in the 1960s and then degraded to the point where we had a massive hole in the middle of our garden that was like 20 odd feet deep. I don't, yeah.
Like a
I've,
sinkhole.
think it was, because I was like, shit, is that, because we have on our street two storm drains. So I was thinking, damn, has the storm drains been leaking into, because it was so deep, But no, it was just an old cesspit because I'd never seen them. We don't have them in the UK. It's all main
Mhm.
sewer. So yeah, that was a shock. And the guy came around and he was just laughing, because it was so deep. It's like, why did they do, because the problem was, it was up the hill. So it had to be so deep. And you can see that there was a
Mhm.
first attempt, but it was too shallow. So they had to make the hole even deeper so
Mhm.
that it would pour in. Anyway, history. So I called him, recently, and he remembered the story. I was
Yeah.
like, okay, we were a special case. But yeah,
Well, it's a key point. Like once you have the agent, integrated with your CRM, or even just providing basic CRM capabilities as a part of the product, the agent can greet people by name when they call.
yeah,
The agent, knows about the last interactions that it's had with the caller. The agent knows, the status of a deal in the CRM or whatever you want to expose to the agent. It just sort of automatically happens. The business owner doesn't really have to do spend any time setting it up. It just sort of works.
excellent,
So,
excellent.
along with
Johnny,
the rest of this stuff, that's where we're trying to get. It should just work.
exactly. Do you have any other questions, Johnny?
I'm just blown away about how far he's come here. And I people we had you on our podcast a few months ago. And I guess, look, success. You've had a successful exit before. You're building some amazing stuff. I'm just really happy to have you part of our team and see where you're going. And anything that we can do within our community and our relationships, man, we support you 110%. As far
Appreciate
it's
it.
just amazing to see what you've built out so concisely and the way you explain it. I mean, I'll tell you, but just rock star, man.
Well, I'm a huge Tad Summit fan for a long time. It feels like Alan and I have been, crossing paths for 2 decades
Yeah,
now. He really helped me a few times at Inteliquent, being pulled in as a consultant on quite a few deals that we did there. So Always happy to do this. Looking forward to many more in the future.
Yeah, and then
Hope
he
the
met
rest of
me,
the
and now
summit
he
goes
became
well.
racy and controversial. So we need all the support we can get. So Alan is the beacon of truth in the industry, and I think that's the most important thing. And look, we just Tad Summit, Tad Hack, live on. There's nothing like it. There's nothing like it in any industry.
Oh,
I
yeah.
totally agree.
So
Thank
it's an
you.
honor to be part of it.
But it was really interesting with Tad Hack this weekend because we've had Thomas Howe on several Tad Hacks over the years, and it took 3 years because the first it wasn't an API; it's just VCon. It's a file standard, and people are like, okay, what's going on here? And we just had one hack, but it was a great hack. Somebody that it clicked, and then last year there were a lot more, and then this year was the year where developers had seen it often enough that they just internalized it. And obviously, they had been thinking about it and the mind had connected different things. So we had one hack, which is the shrine in the temple of computing. And it was a really funny pitch video. And, Beacon wasn't even mentioned, but it was obvious because of the demo that they had, which was using basically this NFC token that you used in the shrine to recreate the experience. So it's one of those where you go, oh shit, that's actually a really interesting way of using this technology. So it takes time, for the community to get their head around it. But once they do, it starts to get used in a whole host of weird and wacky ways that you would never have thought of. Because everything in the early days was all CRM related, because that's where you've got a customer record and you want to use it. But then, you start seeing all these applications where you can use it for religious experiences. But anyway, so again, Lyle, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your support on the panel discussion as well. That was really great. So good luck and let's keep in contact.
Thank you.
You're
Have
welcome.
a good one. Bye.